Okay, so we are holding today on Yud Bet Amud Aleph at the first two dots on the page. So 12A-2 in the art scroll. Okay, so we had a Mishnah going back on 11A. We had a Mishnah, so 11A3. We had a Mishnah. Mishnah said, three lines down to the Mishnah, V'lo yifaleh et kelav. One may not delouse, take off lice from the garments on Shabbat. V'lo yikra, and one may not read from a text, le'or haner, by the light of a lamp. Right? The issue was maybe I'll tilt the lamp, and this way I'll make more fire and be over a malacha of Shabbat. So the question today is, when this says le'or haner, is it going on both cases? The cases of removing the lice, and the issue of removing lice is also that I am moving the lamp if I want to take away the lice. So if I want to take away the lice during the day, it wouldn't be a problem, and I'm not worried about killing the lice. There's an issue of killing, a malacha of shchita, of netilas neshama, right? They would kill the rams, the shchita on the rams for the mishkan to get what's it called, the hides to make the curtains. So, is that the issue? So that's really the question. What is the malacha, and what's the issue of delousing a garment, taking off the lice from a garment? Is it the issue that I'm killing the lice and it's issue of shechita, and it makes no difference if it's the day or the night? Or is there only an issue or haner to do it by the light? And really, there is no issue of removing lice, and I don't care about killing the lice, and killing lice would be permissible. La halacha, we're going to see, like Beis Hillel, that the halacha is that one is allowed to kill lice, and it's not considered shechita, as the Gemara understood that the way Beis Hillel understands the halacha is that it has to be done like the way it was done in the Mishkan. And shechita in the Mishkan was done on animals that reproduce. That there's a mother, there's a father, there's a baby. And in Talmudic times, they understood that lice was spontaneously generated. It just came out of, warmy type of places and stuff like that. And as such, it doesn't have a mother and a father, and it doesn't reproduce. And as such, there is no issue of killing lice on Shabbat. Halacha l'maaseh, that it is. That's the way it is. Whether you're taking lice out of a head, of hair, or you're taking lice out of a garment, one is allowed to take it and kill it on Shabbat. The only issue is that today, via microscopes and all these other things, one can see that there is a reproduction of lice, just like there's a reproduction of animals. And the question is, how does the halacha stay the same? So there's a concept that that something that's not visible to the eye is not considered halachically in existence, right? It's not considered that it's halachically a reality. Torah was given to mankind with their limitations of their eyes and their ears or whatever it is. So as such, since it's so microscopic, even though they do reproduce, in the end of the day, on a halachic level, it's not considered as it is reproduced, and as such, one will be allowed to kill the lice on Shabbat. Okay, that's the halacha l'maisa. But now let's go through the sugya and take a look. So back on 12A-2. Lo yifalet kelav ebayalahu lo yifalet kelav bayom. Is it that I cannot delouse during the day? Shema yaharog, and the issue is that I may kill a louse. Brother Eliezer, he and Rabbi Eliezer. The Tanya of Eliezer says, I'm Rabbi Eliezer. Someone who kills a lice on Shabbat, it's as if he killed a camel, and it's the same thing. And not read by the light of the lamp, that's a separate case. Shema Yata, because maybe he'll move the lamp. Or Dilma, or maybe Tarveu Shema Yata. And maybe both of the cases are, maybe I'll tilt the lamp, right? And there's no issue of killing the lice. So Toshma, come, let's have a proof. Ein Polin ve'ein Korin le'or haner. We don't delouse and we don't read by the or haner. The Gemara says, Mi alima matisan. What good is this Braita over the Mishnah? It's the same thing. We don't know. Is Ein Polin a separate case, but Ein Korin Or Haner a separate case, or they're both going on the Or Haner? Usually a Braita Tosfos says is more elaborate. So since it doesn't elaborate here, Ein Polin, right, is Or Haner, maybe it means Ein Polin Babayom. So anyway, the Gemara brings the next proof, final proof, Tashma, Ein Polin Or Haner. One should not delouse by the light of a candle or light of the lamp. So the issue is moving the lamp. The Ein Karin La'Haner, and you don't read by the lamp. These are the special halachot that were part of the chamber of Hananiah ben Chizkiah ben Garon. These were the day that many of Beit Shammai's psaks became halacha. They pack the court, so to speak. We will see more about this later on. We'll see more about this later on. But for right now, Shema Mina de Tervayu Shema Yotem. Shema Mina. So the halacha is, the issue is about moving the lamp. The issue is not about killing the lice. Okay, we're going to explain more shortly, but let's see some more of the halachas regarding reading. Right? So you can't read and you can't delouse. What else can't you do with the lamp or the light? So it's going to be anything that requires analysis, anything that requires a strong look. If it's just a glance, then it would be okay to use the lamp light. But anything that requires something that requires more of a look, to discern, to tell the difference, that would be usher to use the lamp light, because maybe I will move it and be over a malacha, I say. Okay, so to use a lamplight to tell a difference between the man's clothing and the woman's clothing would also be also, because it requires to discern the difference. Samarava, that's true only the city of Mechoza. Says Rava, it depends. Mechoza, people were having white collar jobs. They didn't work in the fields. So the men also had nice looking garments that looked somewhat feminine. So therefore, if you want to take a difference between a woman's clothing and a man's clothing, you would have to look very carefully. Therefore, you can't do it by the light of the candle, light of the lamp. However, a villager's male clothing versus a female's clothing is stark difference. And therefore, I could use the lamplight because I'm not going to tilt it, because it's very easy to tell the difference. Says the Gemara, when they said about Mechoza, they said it only regarding the older woman. The older woman's clothing looks like men's clothing. But the young woman's clothing is very, very feminine, and even though the men's clothing is somewhat feminine, it is a stark difference, and therefore you can use the lamp light, and it is not an issue because it's easily discernible. So right now we are at the point that something that is easily discernible, one could use the lamp light. Only something that requires one to look closely would be the issue. Tanan Rabbanon. Ein polim b'reshut rabim. One should not delouse in the reshut rabim mipnei hakavod, because it disgusts people. Don't do your delousing. Don't take out your garbage and throw it in the reshut rabim. Kayotze ba'amar Rabbi Yehuda v'amar Rabbi Nechemia. Ein osin afik tozin b'reshut rabim. One should not do afik tozin, vomiting, induced vomiting in public. Sometimes the Romans would use it in order to eat more. You ate so much and you wanted to enjoy more food, so you have to get the food out. It doesn't fit. So they vomited. And sometimes, a person ate too much, and to release pressure and stuff like that, as a medication, they would induce vomiting. So sometimes you need to induce vomiting. But even then, you shouldn't do it in the public, right? Because it's out of respect for the people who pass by. Don't do disgusting things. Right? Same thing in shul. Always don't do disgusting things in shul. Don't leave your dirty tissues out. Don't make loud sounds and stuff like that. A person needs to make sure that he's in a public place, that he's worried about the covet of the people. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught on the Braita. Hamfala is Caleb, someone who delouses his garments on Shabbat. How should he do it? Molel v'zorek. he can sort of twist the lice. This way it stuns them, says Rashi, and they don't move. But you should make certain he doesn't kill them. Rashi explains that according to this Rabbanon, killing allows is an Issur de Rabbanon on Shabbos. Okay, so therefore, you can stun them, but make sure not to kill them. You just take them and throw them, but you cannot roll them, you cannot stun them, and you cannot kill them for sure, because Rashi explains he holds it's an Issur de Oraita, like Rabbi Eliezer. Rav Huna, halacha mo'il v'zarek. Halacha is you can roll them around and stun them. And this is the respectful way for one to delouse a garment, and even during the week. Now, Rabba would kill the lice on Shabbat. Rav Sheshes would kill the lice on Shabbat. Rabba would kill them, but not directly. He would throw them into water so they would die there indirectly. Rav Nachman would tell his daughters, kill the lice and let me hear the sound of my enemies as they die. So here you had three opinions. One opinion is you can stun the lice, but you shouldn't kill them. One, right? It's Issur d'Rabbanan. One says an Issur d'Oraisa, and one says it's mutar to kill. Tanya, B'Shem bin Lazar Omer, Ein Horgin Talacha at the Ma'aochelet b'Shabbat. One does not kill lice on Shabbat. Devrei Beit Shammai. These are the words of Beit Shammai. Beit Hillel matirin, and Beit Hillel permits one to kill. Since the model for this prohibition is the ram, it applies only to animals like the ram that reproduce. Hence, it is not applied to a louse, which is not reproduced, but rather grows spontaneously from a person's skin. That's the way Rashi explains. Now, although today, like we said, it is proven scientifically that they do reproduce, we hold anything that cannot be directly perceived by the human senses is halachically non-existent. Thus, halacha treats lice as they do not lay eggs. And as such, it is mutar to kill lice on Shabbat, and even to pull lice out of here on Shabbat, and even if some here comes out with the pulling of the lice, says the Yalkut Yosef, one is allowed to pull it out. It's a secretion de l'nicha. It's something that happens that he doesn't care about, doesn't want it to happen, and he's taking out the lice, and taking out the lice is mutar, and to kill him is mutar, and that is the halacha. V'chein haya Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar omer mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Now that we brought one machoka Beit Shammai Beit Hillel, we're bringing another one. He says over here from Beit Shammai, one cannot make shidduchim on Shabbat. You cannot start saying this boy for this girl, this girl for this. Can't do it. The law at the tinok l'lamdo sefer u'lamdo umanut. You cannot arrange a tutor to teach your son or teach somebody Torah or to teach him a profession. And one cannot console mourners on Shabbat. You cannot do menachim avel. You cannot go to visit the mourning. And you do not visit the sick b'Shabbat. Who is this? Divrei Beit Shammai. What's the issue? There is a pasuk that says on a Shabbat by not doing your stuff, getting your boy married, getting this boy to learn. It all is your business. It's not to do with Shabbat. Therefore, you cannot do it. Going to visit the sick, going to visit the mourners, it brings tsar on Shabbos. It brings pain. You're not allowed to put yourself in pain. You're not allowed to read stuff, for example, that is about like Holocaust or other things like that will cause a person pain on Shabbat, because you're not allowed to cause yourself pain on Shabbat. So the Shammai says you can't do this. Uvet Hillel, but Bet Hillel is matir. He allows one to do these activities on Shabbat, to make shidduchim, to set up tutors, to set up a professional to teach him. One is allowed to do all that setup on Shabbat. One is Bet Hillel's reasoning. Bet Hillel's reasoning is, you're right, the pasuk says I shouldn't do my own things. Well, guess what? These are not just my own things. These are mitzvot. To get a boy married, get a girl married, is a mitzvah. So therefore, I can make shidduchim. It's a mitzvah. I can arrange for a tutor for Torah. It's a mitzvah. I can arrange for a tutor to teach him a profession, because it's a mitzvah to have a profession. This way, a person won't come to steal. To go visit the sick is a mitzvah. To go visit the mourners also a mitzvah. It gives them hizuk and stuff like that. So therefore, Bet Hillel is matir. Halacha l'maaseh. is mutar to do all these things. When setting up a tutor, one should not talk the price, but one can set up the other things about him agreeing to do it and stuff like that, but they shouldn't talk about the amount. Shidduchim, same thing. Person can set it up and the stuff like that. Halacha l'maaseh is that one could be Menachem Avel on Shabbat. He could be Menachem Avel on Shabbat, and he can actually do all the same things like they do on a regular day for Menachem Avel. However, the minhag is not to do all that. It's to go to me. If you're going to go to Menachem Avel, you go, you sit, you give him a little musar, you give him a little, talk about a little bit emunah, bitachon, and then come out. And really, you should go Menachem Avel not on Shabbat, on a regular day. But if a person didn't have time and the person went on Shabbat, technically he's allowed to Menachem Avel on Shabbat. And there are those who say what he should say is Shabbat Timilinachem V'nechama Kiravol. It's Shabbat. We're prevented from consoling you, but consolation will come soon. All right, Mishnah Berurah brings this down. Yakut Yosef brings this down. That is the lashon that a person, if going to Menachem Avel on Shabbat, he should use. Taner Rabbanon. The same thing. If you're going to visit a sick person on Shabbat, what do you say? Shabbati milazok urfa karavol lavo. It's Shabbat now. We're prevented from crying out for your recovery because it's something that might bring tsar. It's a personal request, right? Whatever it is. Urfa karavol lavo. But recovery will come soon. If you keep Shabbat, you don't scream out, you don't get upset, and you know that Shabbat could bring you refuah and stuff like that, you're going to be healed. Rabbi Meir, wants to say that the Shabbat itself can have mercy and bring you recovery. Okay? Halacha brings down both of these sayings, but it says the minhag is not to say Yecholah Hishtrahem, rather Shabbat Timulazok Urfa Kalavol Lavo, and this is a famous line that they say in the Mishnah Berach for the sick person on Shabbat, which we will touch on a little bit more in a moment. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, when a person is saying in Mishabach for this thing, he should say, Hashem should give you Rahmanus, mercy on you and all the sick people. Rabbi Yossi, no, don't say it on you and all the sick people. Rather say, you should have, mercy on you among the sick of Israel, right? We want to put you amongst everybody else. There is a schut of a tzibur, being part of a rabbim. They have more schutim. So therefore, you don't want to single the guy out and say, Alecha the Al Cholei Yisrael, but rather B'toch Cholei Yisrael. And that's what we do. Halacha l'maisa, we do B'toch Cholei Yisrael. We also don't say the Chola, we say just the name, and then we say B'toch Shar Cholei Yisrael. We don't want to call him a Chola and say he's sick, right? So you just say his name and then move on. Shibna Ishu Shalayim B'chnisata Omer. Shibna was a prominent man in Jerusalem. When he would enter to visit a sick person on Shabbat, he would start off by saying Shalom. When he left, when he would leave, he would say Shabbat Timulazok Ufra Karavalava Barachama Mirubin Vishiftu Vishalom, and rest on Shabbat in peace, using Hashem's name Shalom and praying for him using Shalom. He used it twice, bringing Shalom to this guy. Command Azla Hada Amr Bechanina. Mi sheyesh lechayil b'toich beitay tzarich she'arvenu b'toich choli Yisrael. Who is the opinion that says when you pray for somebody who's sick, you say b'toich choli Yisrael? Command. We saw this, Rabbi Yossi. It is Rabbi Yossi. We'll stop to explain some of the halacha. Let's do the next line. Remember Chanina? Avelim ulak and cholim b'Shabbos. To go again, Chanina, bikoshi, with difficulty. Hitiru, the Chachamim were matir, linachem avelim, to visit and console the mourning on Shabbat, uvakir cholim b'Shabbat, and to visit the sick on Shabbat. So really technically, one shouldn't do these things of visiting the sick and consoling the mourners on Shabbat, because it's going to bring a person to tsar. It's going to bring a person to pain. You know, I put yourself in pain on Shabbat. However, the Chacham said we had no choice. Because, number one, the sick person will say, no one's davening for me, no one cares for me, it's Shabbat, oh, what's going to be? We got to give him chesed. Same thing with Avelim. Nobody's coming, no one's doing this, that, I'm all alone, whatever it is. So therefore, they also allowed it bikoshi with difficulty. Okay, now, so we see that you're allowed to go to this guy and you're allowed to say Shabbat Ti Milazok. We have a minhag to also say to pray for a sick person on Shabbat, which is not so simple. Again, it's going to bring tar. It's a personal request. So some of the opinions are that, listen, the sick guy, for him, he's already in tzar. When you pray for him, it brings him some, some pleasure that maybe this is going to work. There's a machloket, the Bet Yosef, right, the Avkat Rochel, and the Yavetz, of what type of sick person can you pray for. And Yavetz is under the opinion that only a seriously ill person, that's the person you can pray for on Shabbat. It's a serious case, so we'll allow praying for him on Shabbat. The Bet Yosef, son of Avkat Rochel, he is Megal, and he says even for a non-seriously ill person, a person can pray on for Shabbat. And he says because when you do the Mishiberach, a person would pledge money, tzedakah. So it's not tzar, rather it's hope by saying the Mishiberach and pledging charity. We'll bring what? We'll give the person hope and the person who's davening and everyone else that he's going to have a refuah shalema, and therefore it's not tzar, but rather hope when a person does the Mishiberach. The Zohar says Mishiberach for the Chayler should be during the time of the taking out the Sefer Torah. Many have a minhag that when they do the Hecha, open the Hecha, do Pticha, before they take out the Sefer Torah completely, that's the time to say the Mishiberach for Refuah Shalema. That is a very good minhag according to the Zohar because that's the time of the most rachamim, and a person should use that time to do the Mishiberach for the sick individual at that time. Okay? So that is some of the halachot that come out of this sugya. Continuing. Amar Abba bar Barhana ki hava azlina bated Belazar l'shayole b'tfiha. When Rabbi Elazar would visit a sick person, we notice Zimnin Amar Hamakom ifkatecha l'shalom. Sometimes he would say in Hebrew, Hashem shall remember you for peace. Vizminan, and there were sometimes Amar Rahmana itkranach l'shlam. Hashem, in Aramaic, he said, may the merciful one remember you for peace. So sometimes in Hebrew, sometimes in Aramaic. Why? So it makes saying that he depends on the person. The person who understood Hebrew, he said in Hebrew. Said it, if person understood Aramaic, he said it in Aramaic. The Gemara's question is, how could he do such? How can you daven in Aramaic? So there's a problem with Aramaic. Person should not ask for his personal things in Aramaic. Anyone who says it in Lashon Arami, the angels will not pay attention to him. Because the ministering angels do not understand Aramaic. Okay, so there's an issue here with the angels and Aramaic, therefore don't daven in Aramaic. All the Rishonim go wild because they say, what is Gemara talking about? We don't daven to Malachim, that's the Avodah Zarah. We daven to Hashem. So what difference does it make? So many want to explain that the angels are responsible of taking the tefillah and sort of carrying it to Hashem, or bringing back answers from Hashem. And if it's in Aramaic, they don't understand it. There's also an issue that there's Gemara that says that you can daven in any language. So what do you do with that? So someone want to say, yeah, any language that is a public davening, you could daven in any language. A private davening has to be done in Hebrew. But even in private davening, that it's a public davening. I mean, I'm davening Yechidi, but it's really a public davening. I can do it in any language. It's when I'm asking for my own things, then it has to be done in Hebrew. And some say, no, even when I'm asking for my own things, I can do it in any language, but not Aramaic. Aramaic is a lower language. It's a corrupt form of Hebrew. It's also the vernacular of the day. And it's the common language, and it doesn't infuse spirituality when davening with it. The Mishnah Berurah also points out that even though you can daven the public tefillot in any language, that shouldn't be done on a regular basis, and it shouldn't be done like you shouldn't just open a minyan now and start davening everything in English. It's not the right way of doing it. There is an Indian of davening in Hebrew, because in Hebrew the Chacham who made the tefillah put in special powers and skulot and stuff like that when you pray it in Hebrew, and therefore a person should do his much is most to do it in Hebrew, and the best way to understand it, is take a siddur beforehand, or make a learning seder of reading the siddur, learning the siddur, understanding what you're saying, and getting a translation, explanation, and stuff like that. But Hebrew should definitely be the vernacular. So here the question is, how could he say it in Aramaic? Because if the angels need to carry it, they don't understand Aramaic, or maybe they understand but they don't like it, right? Now, where do we see this? Where do we see this halacha l'maaseh? We see this in selichot. When we come to selichot, we say certain things in Aramaic. So they always say, if you don't have 10 people, you cannot say it, and you cannot do those Aramaic parts. Rachmana itkalan kemed Avram rechima. Right, all these parts are in Aramaic. You shouldn't say it if you don't have a minyan. Why? Because if you don't have a minyan, then the angels have to carry it. And the angels don't understand Aramaic or don't want to understand Aramaic. But if Hashem's Shechina is there, right? The Shechina is there, then you're talking directly to the Shechina, 10 people are there, then you can, what's it called? Then you can you can say it in Aramaic because the Shechina is right over there. So here, Rabbi Elazar, when he went to visit the sick person, there's one person there. So how is he saying it in the Aramaic? There's no Shechina there. Gemara says, no, it is. Shani Chayla. Sick person is different. The Shechina Iwai, because the divine presence is with him. We know that when this person is sick, Hashem is with him. The Amar of Anan Omar Rav, Menayin Shechina So'ed et HaCholeh. How do we know that the divine presence supports a sick person? Shnemar Hashem Yisa'adenu al Eres Davai. Hashem will support him on the sick bed. A person who goes to visit the sick person, lo yeshiv al gabi mita lo al gabi kisa. He should not sit above him on a chair or on a bed. Right, he should wrap himself and sit on the floor, and because the divine presence is above the head of the sick person. Hashem will support him on the sick bed. The Ramah and Yeridea say this issue of sitting, right? This is not to sit in front of the sick person on a chair or on a bed, is only if the sick person is on the floor. Okay, but if he himself is on a bed, then it'd be permissible. We don't want you sitting on top of him because the Shekhinah is on top of him, but you're sitting on his level. That would be okay. The reason they wanted the person to get wrapped up in a talit is because it shows seriousness, and it will show the person to be serious and to do tshuva, the person who's visiting and the person who is sick. How do we know that Hashem feeds the sick person? Hashem will support him on the sick bed. Okay, so that was some halachot from visiting the sick, and on Shabbat and the regular day, and how to say Mishin Berach on Shabbat for the sick person as well. Okay, now we're going back to our original sugya, which was when the using the lamplight, when and when not. Amar Rabba, person shouldn't read by the lamplight. Amar Rabba, I feel even if it's twice the height of a man. Even if it's at the height of 2 ox goads. I feel and even if it's 10 houses on top of the other, no matter how far the lamp is, still it is usher to read from it. It's a light plug. It is a no argument. It's always the same halakha. But it says here one shouldn't read a tray sharper done. But 2 are allowed to read. The light plug is on the candle, not on the person. But it says elsewhere, not 1 and not 2. They both shouldn't read from it. Because of the kasha. It depends. This 1 or 2 people. So if 2 people are learning together, right? So then they will watch out for each other and they'll make sure that none of them touch the light. But if each one is learning their own separate thing, then no, you cannot use the lamp because each one is not paying attention to the other. The question the post can deal with, and the 2 people are learning, are they learning from 1 book? All right, or are they learning from 2 books? Right, because maybe if they're paying attention to another book, I won't see what the other guy is doing. Allah l'maisa we're makel. They're learning from 2 books. As long as you're learning in Yinecha, they're learning together. They will remind each other. So too, if a person takes a shomer, let's say he's learning at the table and his wife is there, and he says to his wife, "Listen, watch me and make sure that I don't touch the lamp." That would work as well. Amr huna uvim dura, and with a bonfire, I feel asar adam asar. By a bonfire, even if 10 people are sitting around, it's never going to be permissible. A bonfire is big. A person won't recognize. Everyone's sitting far from each other. A person has his own stick that can touch the bonfire. And as such, it's not recognizable. No one will be able to stop you. there's no touching there's no reading in front of a bonfire. And now the continues the Gemara. Amar Rava, im Adam Chashav, if the person is an Adam Chashav, he is an important person. He is someone who never touches a lamp. He has his butler doing it or other people doing it. So then mutar, it's permitted for him because again the loy plug is not on the person. The loy plug is on the candle. So they are on the lamp. So therefore, the person, if he's someone who never touches it, then it would be fine. Meitve, they asked the question. Lo yikra lo arhaner shemayata. Why may not read by lamplight, lest he tilt the lamp. Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha said, listen, I know why. You say don't tilt it. I'm going to read. I'm not going to tilt. I'm going to be careful. One time he read, and he almost came to touch it. He said, Amar kama gedolim divrei chachamim. Shayu oimrim lo yikra lo araner. They said, listen, don't do it. See, they were right. I shouldn't have said it's okay. I'll do it. I'm not going to come to it. Rabbi Natan Amar Karavita. No, the story is he actually did tilt the lamp because of Pinkaso, and he wrote in his notebook, "Ani Yishmael ben Elisha karati v'hiditi ner b'Shabbat." I Yishmael ben Elisha. I read by the lamplight and tilted the lamp on Shabbat. When the Beit Hamikdash will be built, I will bring a hatat offering, a fine hatat offering. So he did tilt it, but he's an Adam Chashiv. Right, so it should have been permissible for him. He considered himself a hedyot, a regular person when it comes to learn Torah. When it comes to learn Torah, he didn't say, "Oh, look at me, I'm so special," and he wouldn't touch anything. No, learning Torah, he would go above and beyond, and as such, he would touch the candle, and therefore, even Rabbi Shmuel, even though he's on the chashuv, so everybody's when it comes to Torah, has to be very careful and not read from the light of the lamp. Okay, one more sugya. Actually, we'll do two more sugyas. Okay, I'll do one more with the Shabbos here, but I really wanted to do a second one, and I think it's all part of one Indian, so it'll make it easier to do it that way. Okay, now, Sana Chada, one brighter taught. Shamesh boide kaisus akaris la'arhanir. A servant may inspect cups and plates by the lamplight. But Tana Idach lo yivda. And one says a servant may not inspect. Now, one second, you told me I can't read. Now, or why am I allowed to inspect? According to that opinion, I'm allowed to inspect. Why am I inspect the dishes? So they want to bring down that, for hygiene, make sure a person eats on clean stuff. We don't want to get him sick with eating from dirty things. We allowed him at some point to look with the candlelight. So the question is, we have one brighter that says you could look with a lamplight to see if the dishes are dirty. And the other one says you can't. So Gemara says like Hashem, it depends. Kam b'shamish kavua, kam b'shamish she'ena kavua. It depends. Is it a shamish kavua or a shamish she'ena kavua? Is it the regular butler or is it a different butler? Someone who is not regular, a temporary one. And the way Rashi explains this, Halach L'mai says not like Rashi, but the way Rashi explains this is that the permanent servant is afraid his master will discover some dirt. And therefore, he wants to look very carefully to make sure he doesn't lose his job. But the other guy, the temporary guy, doesn't care. He's gone tomorrow. He doesn't care. So therefore, he's allowed to look because he's not going to look carefully. Right? The issue is looking carefully. So the servant who's there full time, he's going to look carefully. But the servant is there part time. He's only there one day. He doesn't care. He's not going to look carefully. Therefore, he's allowed to look at the lamp of the light. And if you want to say better, havaha b'shamish kivua. Both of these are talking about the shamish kivua. Okay, and one says he's allowed to, one says not. One is this like kasha. Ha bimdishcha. This one it comes with the oil lamp, right? The issue is he might move it around. The ha bidnafta. In this case with nafta, nafta gave a foul order, so a person wouldn't tilt it. Or others explain that nafta would be very well lit, that you would never need to tilt it. It's such a well-lit item that one would not need to tilt it. And by the way, from that, they have the halacha that they bring down. What about wax candles of today? No one really tilts it to get a better light. It stands there. You don't tilt it to get a better light. So, and also it's very clear. And the kerosene lamp is very clear. So there are poskim who say, yeah, that would be permissible to read from those because it's such a bright light. It's like this nafta. Like it's explained by some of the Rishonim, the nafta is a light that is never likely to be tilted, um, because it's such a strong, good light. Okay, that's the way some explain this. Now, now, this was the way Rashi explained this sugya. Tosfos, the bottom Tosafot, he comes and he says there's another there's another, what's it called, girsa. Bottom Tosfos, second to last line of the page of Tosfot. V'Rebbeinu tam garis havaha b'shamish she'einu kavu. Um, says Tosfos. Tosfot says that both of these cases is about a shamish she'ena kavua. That one says he's allowed to, and one says he's not allowed to. Okay, and how do they explain it? So this is the way Tosfot explains the sugya. He says that a shamish kavua has job security, so he's not worried if he messes up. Also, a shamish kavua, some explain, he is an expert. He's always there. He knows how to check with a glance. He doesn't need to look very carefully. Therefore, he's allowed to. But a shamish she'eno kavua, he's not an expert. Also, he wants to work very well. So this way, they give him the full-time job. So as such, he's going to look very carefully. So it's the opposite logic of Rashi. So now, then it says, oh, and a better answer is talking about a shamish she'ena kavua. And it depends. A shamish she'ena kavua, if he's using oil, so he wants to look well, he wants to get the job, he doesn't know how to do it yet, he's looking very carefully, so then with oil, definitely not. But the nafta, then he is allowed to. So now the Gemara's question is, shamish kavua. Our girsa, the Gemara's girsa here is like Rashi, but halacha is going to be like Tosfot. So we're going to change it to shamish kavua. This shamish kavua, bidimshecha mahu. Is he allowed to use the oil lamp? We said he's an expert. He looks quickly, right? He doesn't need to look a lot. He's not worried about losing his job. He has job security. He's in a union. I don't know, right? So he's not worried. So is he allowed to use the oil lamp? Amarab halacha ve'ein morin ken. Yes, that's the halacha, but we don't paskin this way in public. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar halacha umorin ken. Rabbi Yirmiyah says that is the halacha, and that is permissible, and you're allowed to paskin that way. And the Yalkut just actually brings an interesting halacha based on this sugya, right? He says, let's say they come to shul early in the morning, and they're there to do bakashot, right? Many Sephardic shuls, when had them in hanging Eretz Yisrael and other places, they would come early in the morning on Shabbat, and they would sing songs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu early in the morning. So let's say they came, and the timer lights didn't go on yet. The electricity lights didn't go on yet. And they only have some candle light. They have some Or HaNer's lamp light that are on. And the guy wants to make coffee for everybody. He wants to look if the cups are clean. And he look at the cups using the lamplight, the oil lamplight. So says Chacham Ovadia, yeah. If he's a regular guy, he's the regular guy who always does it. He's the regular shamish. So then he knows how to look at it quickly. He doesn't have to look very closely. So then, yeah, you can look through it. But if the guy is a shamish, he ain't go up, right? And he's not the guy who usually does it. So then he cannot look with the Or HaNer because he would need to discern very closely, right? And as such, it would be also for him to use the Or HaNer. So that's a halakha l'maisa based on this. Okay. Interesting. The Chavadi also brings the halacha. We talked about the clothing, right? Man and the woman, but he brings the halacha as follows. Let's say you went to somebody's house or you went for a simcha somewhere, and everyone piled up their coats, and now they finished the without, but the lights turned off, and there's no electrical lights now. The only lights are the Shabbos candles, right? The oil candles. Can I use the oil candles to find my coat? Says Chavadi, no, you can't, because everyone's coat looks the same. And they're all darkish, whatever it is. And since they look similar, I'll have to discern well. And it was also to use the lamplight. Okay? Another halacha that's nogei l'maisa. Okay, let's finish the end of this sugya and we'll go to one more. Rabbi Yerim bar Abba ikol Rav Asi. Rabbi Yerim bar Abba visited the house of Rav Asi. Kam Shamea Ka Vadik Linhara the Shaga. And Rabbi Yirmiyah's servant went and inspected tableware by the light of the shraga. Shraga is Aramaic for a lamp or a fire. Interestingly, I saw from Rav Steinsaltz, where does the word shraga come from? Where is the origin of the word shraga? And he says it's actually Persian. Also in Bukhari, also we have this in Bukhari from the word chirok, right? Chirok, like a lamp, a light. The word shraga in Aramaic took it from Persian, and that's how you got from chirok to shraga. Similar letter, similar form of explaining it. So here we have Rabbi Yirmiyah is at Rav Asi's house, and Rabbi Yirmiyah's servant goes and starts checking it by the oil lamp tableware. Amr le devitu. Rav Asi's wife said to Rav Asi, Amr la avdachi. But Rav Asi doesn't allow one to do this. Rav Asi holds it's usher. You can't do that. So Amr la, Rav Asi said to her, Shivke, Kirabi Sivirale. He follows the opinion of Rabbi Yirmiyah, and Rabbi Yirmiyah allows this butler who's a kavua, again learning the sugya according to Tosfot, to look at it with a lamplight. Okay, fine. Final sugya for today. The Mishnah said be'emet amru hazan, and they said that the sexton, the gavai, the shamesh, is allowed to look with the candle just to see the Roshei Prakim where they're going to be reading from. V'amarta reisha ro'eh. But the town of the Mishnah stated first, ro'eh, he may look. My lab, the code doesn't looking mean to read. No, lo, the side of Rashi. It comes to mean the beginning of the passages. Rashi Prakim. He's not reading. He's allowed to look at the start of the chapters. But may he not read the entire passage? But in the Mishnah, the children of the shul, of the yeshiva, they would prepare passages and read by the lamplight. It says they would read it. So the Gemara said, either you say the children were only doing the heads of the chapters. It's different when there are children. Because they have the fear of the rabbi. They're not going to come to touch the lamp. Right back in the day, the teachers of old, you did something wrong, you got hit. So they would not dare touch it. Some say even when the rabbi wasn't there, they wouldn't dare touch it. So therefore they're allowed to read even the rabbi is not there. Others say only when the rabbi is there. Another explanation that the Yerushalmi brings is that kids want to get out of class. Okay, they don't want that lesson to go on, so they're waiting and dying for that lamp to go out. So they would never tilt it to get more light out of it. And as such, therefore, we're not worried when the children are reading from the lamp. Okay, so that was the Gemara. There was a lot of halacha l'maaseh that came out of this Gemara. We ended off on 13A1. Okay, Shavuot Tov.